Hello to everyone and warm welcome to the next episode of People and Purpose podcast. I am Tarja Takko, CEO and founder of Takko Advisory, a firm where we focus on driving positive change. In this episode, we really focus on positivity and also driving positive change as we put the lenses onto the secret to happy workplaces. I am very happy as a Finn that we talk about happiness. And our guest is also joining from Finland. And as you know, Finland has recently been ranked again, now the 8th time, as the world's happiest country. And our guest, Ben Furman, is an expert when it comes to building happier workplaces. It's very exciting to have you, Ben, as our guest today.
My pleasure.
Completely my pleasure. And let me explain a little bit. Ben is actually, I think, the reason I got interested in his psychology and also people behavior when I was at younger age watching Ben's TV talk show. I think the show was called Ben Furman and it ran for quite a few years. So quite a few episodes I was following you. Also, at the later stage, I got, I think, the whole seed into solution-focused thinking and solution-focused leadership and coaching from you, Ben, from the inspiration by your work. And for me, it made a lot of sense to focus on solutions rather than problems. And that's something that I have applied, the whole approach is something I have applied in my work throughout the years as the Chief HR Officer. And also now with my own company, solution-focused and care are the core values of the company. And last but not least, I also started studying solution-focused therapy. And I could say that the inspiration was rooted by the work done by you, Ben.
Nice to hear. I'm happy to hear that. Solution-focused psychology, I think, has a lot to offer. Even if it is a little bit marginal. I mean, it's not mainstream, but maybe it should be mainstream.
I definitely think it should be mainstream, but why do you think it's not mainstream?
One reason, just one reason is that it's the solution-focused approach is originally a brief therapy approach. Now, these days, the method is used for coaching just as well as therapy. But when it was developed, it was a very, very brief therapy model. It was a scandal that the traditional therapists, they hated the idea that some people are claiming, we help people in just 4 sessions or 1 session or 5 sessions or maybe 10 sessions. The idea that therapy could be done in just a few sessions was scandalous. And this might have something to do with it, because when solution-focused ideas, when people started to pick these up in the field of coaching, so the same idea of the shortness was embedded, and not all coaches like the idea of only 3 sessions or 5 sessions. How do you make a buck? How do you make a lot of money? So many coaches, they like contracts where they are involved with the company for a year or half a year, several sessions. It's a business. Solution-focused, it doesn't really help business. It helps effectiveness, but it's not good business to do very short work. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we will go definitely more in detail into the solution-focused approach. But let's take a few minutes first focusing on Finland. And I think it's quite an achievement that Finland has been ranked the happiest country in the world 8 years now running. And I think for me, it's very much having the basics right. So the security, freedom, and quality. And of course, every individual have their own reasons what makes them happy. But Ben, what is your view? Why does Finland rank so well in this happiness contest?
I belong to the skeptics, I read how much in Finland we complain about everything. Do you remember there was a little not a scientific study, but some kind of a study anyway, in the Helsingin Sanomat, in our major newspaper. And they said in the study that they found that 60% of all teachers who work in Finland are seriously considering changing professions. Now, what does that say about happiness? So yes, it is true. It depends very much on what you ask. If you ask about social equality and social possibilities, like in Finland, I think we have relatively good chances. If you come from a poor family, you can still be successful in life. But in other countries, maybe it's difficult. If you don't have money, you cannot make it, so to say. So I think it depends on what you measure. And if you measure in the way they measure, so maybe Finland and Sweden and so on, we are happier countries, but that doesn't really say so much about the sentiments, the emotional, how happy do you feel? Are you happy with your life? That maybe they are not measuring actually happiness. Maybe they are measuring something else and just calling it happiness because it attracts more attention when you say that you are measuring happiness. I'm not sure about this. This is just my hunch about it. And I remember when another study many years ago, I bumped into it. And so the happiest people were in Calcutta, in the slums of Calcutta. So who knows? It depends what you ask. Which country wins the lottery, so to say.
Yeah, that is definitely very, very true. And there is a lot to be done still in Finland. It's not a dreamland in many different ways. But how do you, and as you said that it really depends how you define it, but how do you define happiness?
I'm not so fond of the word happiness. I think it's very popular to speak about happiness, but do we really want to be happy? At least in Finnish language, the same word, the happiness, can be used in a derogatory way, like you are a little bit stupid. Stupid is the same as happy. We sometimes joke about it. Are you a little bit happy? Yeah? Because I think it's not really realistic to pursue happiness. I think a more better word, at least for me, in my linguistic, is being content. Are you okay? Are you satisfied with your life? I think that makes more sense. I'm satisfied. Do you get satisfaction from your work? Are you satisfied with your family life? Are you satisfied with your chances in life, what you can do? I think it would make more sense to measure or to speak about being satisfied or being content than happiness. I mean, who's happy? Yeah, everybody's happy sometimes, but we are not happy all the time. Nobody's happy all the time. It's an unrealistic idea. If you are happy all the time, there is something wrong with you.
then you definitely maybe are happy, as you started explaining.
Maybe you're suffering from bipolar disorder or something.
Yeah, and I think it's and also maybe one could talk about positive psychology, and then it's really understanding. And as you said, you can understand the word happiness in the wrong way, and using the word content is actually definitely a good option.
Could be.
And I was thinking that what happiness or being content is not. I mean, happy person can have negative feelings, so it doesn't mean that you're all the time being completely content with everything.
And by the way, these words have different meanings for different people. So you would have to ask, like, what do you think about the word happiness? If you would do work with a company, and they would ask you to do some consultancy work, so you would have to ask the company, the people in the company, your client. You have to ask the client what words they like to use. Would you be interested in us helping you to be a happy workplace? No, we don't want to be a happy work. What would you like to be instead? What do you think about the word content? What do you think about the word satisfied? Words? Do you like the word work satisfaction? I remember once I was invited to Sweden to speak, like public speaking, motivational speaking. And they asked me, what would you like to speak about? What would be your topic? And I said at that time it was a little bit popular to speak about enjoyment of work. We say in Finnish työn ilo. In Swedish they say arbetsglädje. That would translate to English like work joy of work or enjoyment of work, something like that. And then the person who was inviting me, she said on the phone, she said, no, we cannot have that title. And I was like, well, why not? What's wrong? It's popular. It's just getting popular here in Finland. This was many years ago. Enjoyment of work. Didn't speak about happiness at that time. It was a taboo word. But enjoyment of work was just making its way into our vocabulary. And then I asked, like, why not? And she said, there has been so many lectures here in Sweden about enjoyment of work, so everybody's tired of the very concept. So if you give a lot of boring lectures about enjoyment of work, soon nobody wants to hear anything about enjoyment of work, and that could happen to happiness, to any of our terminology that we use. So that's why I thought maybe it's better to play it a little bit louder than rather than say happiness. But the client decides what words we use. We use whatever words, whatever floats our boat, so to say.
Yeah. I think it's the focus and the targets that really matters here. Whatever is the word that is actually used.
And one more point that may be worth mentioning. I think it's not really true that companies are interested in creating happy workplaces. That's not what they want. Sometimes I have used the metaphor of playing music to cows. When they play music to cows. So the reason why they play music to cows is not to make cows happy. It is to produce more milk. Because there is some scientific finding that cows produce more milk if they hear classical music. So nobody's going to buy a stereo equipment because to make the cows happier, they're paying for the stereo equipment or the streamed music in order to produce more. And to be honest, this is what this is all about. And happiness is not really interesting for companies, but what is interesting for companies is to reduce the costs of burnout or the cost of stress or the cost of people leaving your workplace and you have to recruit new people. So this is all about economics, and I think, to be honest, we should really say it loud. And who's interested in happiness anyway? We are only interested in profiting more. But if we want to profit more, we have to take happiness or satisfaction, work satisfaction or work enjoyment really seriously.
And that's something that many of the leaders, I think they still don't fully understand that. Of course, a lot of the leaders do, and that's really, really good. But I have one example where my manager's manager was really saying that we cannot be happy at workplace. We cannot have fun at workplace because that's not focusing on performance and that's not bringing us money, which was quite an interesting viewpoint to have. You cannot lock down your feelings and you cannot come to work without feeling anything and just focusing on the money. Of course, as you said, it's as of course also my experience is that if you have engaged employees that are content and that are working well within the team and within the organization, the culture is supportive, positive, of course, that drives good results and that drives customer happiness and all of that brings better results.
I think you're right. I remember when I have been teaching in China, and I have been working with parents and teachers. And I remember when I've been speaking about the importance of creating happiness in schools. That's another organization that is where satisfaction, study satisfaction, and teaching satisfaction is desperately needed. So I've noticed that the Chinese parents, if I only speak about happiness, about how to ensure that your child is happy in the school or happy learning or happy studying, then they are not quite happy with my with my message. And I've learned that I have to add these, what we are talking about, will help your child be happy. And then I have to add, and successful. If I say happy and successful, meaning you are successful in school.
Much more.
Then everybody is like, now we are talking. Who cares about happiness? We don't need our children to be happy as long as they are successful. So success and happiness are related, and if we can combine the two, then we can sell our ideas to people, because they are not maybe they are not only interested in happiness, they are equally interested in success.
They are, and they go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand. And maybe that's a good message that we would like. Did you know that happy children learn better? Or did you know that if people are satisfied with their work, or if they gain joy from their work, then they will work better together? And I'd like to always emphasize that it's not only happy to be happy about it's like to be happy about your colleagues, to be happy about the team, your team. Do you enjoy working with your team? I think that's a much better question. Like, why say, are you happy? Better to say, do you enjoy working with your team? What would need to happen in order for you to be even more, enjoy even more working with it? What are the moments when you have enjoyed working with your team, with your team, with your team? It's not an individualistic thing. It's a team sport. To be happy, you need other people. You cannot be happy with a mirror.
Yeah. I think there is a saying that you cannot be great without the greatness of others.
I think so. Yeah, there are many sayings.
But hey, before we go into the team dynamics and collaboration, can we first talk a little bit about the solution-focused approach, where as we've been saying, your work is deeply rooted in, since not everybody fully understands what this is all about. Can you briefly explain what it is and why is it so powerful?
Yeah, so in the 80s, 70s, 80s, there was a team, a psychotherapy group that was meeting families and individuals and children and all kinds of problems, mental health problems, different mental health problems, social problems, addiction problems, what have you. And they were influenced by this concept of brief therapy. Now, brief therapy can mean many things, but what it meant at the time was that we don't, in a therapeutic discussion, we don't start to analyze problems. We don't use a lot of time to describe problems, to analyze their causes. The idea of root cause used to be very central, but in solution focused, you are not really interested in the root cause. You are not interested in the details of the problems. You are not actually talking much about problems. You are more inviting people to think about how they would like things to be in the future. So tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, half a year from now, 1 year from now, is a future-oriented way of working with people. In psychology, it was revolutionary. It was totally revolutionary because we had the Freudian tradition And normally all psychologists and psychiatrists and social workers and therapists, they all started to talk with you about your past, about your childhood, about your history. And suddenly you have a group of therapists who are talking about the future. It was blasphemy. It was like they would have kicked Freud out of the sandbox and then started to do therapy in a totally different way. But the clients loved it. Many clients, they said this was so refreshing and this was so better. This was more optimistic. So you start to develop a better future for people, which is not an alien idea for business people. I think business people are used to this idea. Vision, steps, what have you already done? Good. You create a kind of an excitement about bringing about change with small steps, and you have a vision about how you would like things to be. I don't think the idea is totally alien to business people, but it was surely a revolutionary idea in the world of therapy.
And where did you get the inspiration, since it was such a new way of looking at things and really changing, as you said, focusing on the past, focusing on the future? Where did you get the inspiration?
So I'm a psychiatrist, and I was studying to become a psychiatrist, or specializing. I'm a medical doctor specializing in psychiatry. And here in Finland in the 80s, like in many countries around the world, psychiatry was plagued, may I excuse my words, plagued by psychoanalysis. And everybody wanted to do individual therapy for years, long-term therapy. And the new kid on the block at that time was family therapy. That was the new kid on the block. And myself, many of my colleagues kind of migrated towards this new approach where you would invite people into the room. You wouldn't talk with an individual necessarily. You would, can your mother come too? Or can we see your grandmother next time? Or can you bring 2 of your friends to the meeting? Or can you bring the whole, your team? I remember one guy had tried to kill himself, and fortunately had not succeeded. So we found out that he plays in a band. And I think we suggested, why don't you come with the whole band the next time? So we'll find a way to secure that you don't do anything like that again, that we have a support network for you. So it was a totally different way of approaching mental health problems. And I was fascinated by the concept of family therapy. So actually started to do some training. It was possible to have training here in Finland in family therapy. And if you do family therapy, you automatically become you hear about the solution-focused approach, because it was originally a family therapy approach, more a social approach to helping people. So we heard about it, and we had contacts with the people who developed this model. They visited Finland, and long story short, but yes, I found it fascinating. It was very different from what the establishment was doing.
And you said people loved it, so it's been very well received, and you can see the results.
There is a lot of optimism in solution-focused work when you focus on what people have done that's already worked a little bit. That they find something that maybe you have done already, something that has helped you a little bit. That even just that little question, just one question in the overall design of solution-focused conversations is already helpful. Oh, yeah, maybe we have done something. Well, maybe not so much, and it hasn't worked all the time. No, but it has worked a little bit. Already starting to create a positive mood for the conversation. And then let's imagine that we meet again in a week from now, or in a month from now, and we have a follow-up meeting. And you will tell me that there has been some results from our conversation, some positive results. I will be asking you, what results are you talking about? What will you tell me? So it's forcing people to describe, to imagine, positive change. And that also creates a lot of optimism in people. Well, I'm not sure that will happen, but I would like things to be like that. It's a different question than why do you think you have this problem? Everybody's used to talking about problems, analyzing the root causes. And suddenly you have a totally different kind of conversation, and you're like, this was nice, this was okay. I thought we are going to kill each other because we are blaming each other for every problem that we have. But you were able to steer our conversation in a manner that felt like we're getting somewhere, we're doing something to make things better.
Yeah.
So no wonder I became interested in it. Huh?
Yeah, but it's a very good approach that can be also used when people have stress or burnout or whatever is the difficult individual situation. But if we now talk about your book Reteaming, which is focusing on team dynamics and collaboration. And as we know, there's a number of different team development tools out there, but how can leaders using the reteaming approach build stronger, and let's use the word happier teams?
Good question. I have to tell you that just yesterday I opened a mail and I got a new book about this. Let me see if I can show you. Yeah, if I put it on in front of my face, maybe. This is in German. This book is in German, and you can see it's called Praxisbuch Reteaming. So I just want to make the point that many years ago, like 20 years ago or something, we started to think about how can we use solution-focused therapy. The same principles, but it's not therapy. But how can we use the same principles when we work with a team or a company to improve happiness and success? To improve happiness and success, and we developed a 12-step, 12 questions, 12 important questions to make your team more successful and more happy. And those questions are typical solution-focused questions, the same questions that I just already gave you a few examples of. And we just called it reteaming because it was packaging. Same idea that's already there, but we repackaged it and we called it reteaming, and we started to teach it. And suddenly, quite of surprise, people became interested. They loved many people loved our 12 steps. I remember I was often in Sweden teaching reteaming. We were teaching here in Finland. It attracted coaches and consultants, HR people, managers participated in reteaming training. 12 questions, and then it has persisted. The book that I just showed you just appeared, a few weeks ago, and it was published in Germany. And Germany is one of the countries where reteaming is still going strong. It's still going strong. So coaches, HR people, managers, they like to learn.
It's the same book. Is it the same book?
No, this is a case book. This one is a case book. So actually, the something that people have been asking, like, could you give us examples of how reteaming works? And there has not been any such book because it's quite boring to describe a process like that. But now the German colleagues, they have succeeded in giving examples. So different people have written articles about how they use reteaming with an individual or with a team or with an organization, asking basically 12 useful future-oriented, resource-oriented questions rather than analyzing what's the root cause of the problem.
Now it would be really good to know those 12 questions, but I think we leave that to the listeners so that they can go into the team and see what those questions are. As you said, managers, HR, there's been a lot of interest and people are using those. And I've also been using those. And I think one of the key points is celebrating successes. So acknowledging that we are making progress. But what, in your view, why are teams not so good in celebrating successes?
I remember one company, they said when we were talking about the importance of celebrating successes or paying attention to successes or discussing success, or my favorite word is analyzing successes. Not only celebrating, but analyzing. This thing that we did, it worked. Yes, we can celebrate. Yeah, let's have a glass of champagne or whatever. That's nice. But what is important is not the nice part. It's like, let's analyze what we did right. And this whole concept of let's analyze what we did right is a key element in solution-focused work. So you try to find even small successes, but you don't just, let's be happy because we succeeded. No. You go like, okay, so why did... I like to joke about it. I say, nobody leaves this room until we find out why we succeeded. It's like the mirror image of nobody leaves this room until we find who's at fault. Why did it go all wrong? So I like the idea. Nobody leaves this room until we find out what you guys did right. So you're inviting people to analyze. Yeah, you're inviting people to analyze successes, and this works very well with children. So if you have your own children and they succeed with something finally, so rather than just say, "Oh, I'm so happy for you. You can do it. I knew you could do it." Yes, you can give positive feedback. That's nice, but even better is just to say, like, how did you do that? What was your secret? And maybe the first answer is, I don't know. I just succeeded. But you can go, yeah, but you did something. Did you think about something? How did you actually manage? And when you start to analyze successes, you realize that before long, you will have to thank other people too. So it was not only me who succeeded, but actually you helped me and you supported me. Got one idea from you, and that will help. And you're starting to build team spirit by analyzing successes.
Yeah.
Rarely any success is just this wonderful person was so fantastic. Nobody's fantastic alone, huh?
No, that's what we said already here in the beginning. I think one important and interesting thing is also what you talk about is the engagement survey that, of course, a lot of the companies, most organizations are running. But I think it's not always very optimal how the results are handled and how the improvement is done, how the whole process is run. So what advice would you give to the organizations to really take the best out of the engagement surveys and have it using for them, not against them?
Good question. I remember already many years ago one chief of department, and I think it was a department house or something, came to ask me, and I worked together closely with my colleague Tapani Ahola, and said, you guys, can you explain to us why the atmosphere was one of the terms that was used at the time, why the atmosphere of our department has become worse since the engagement survey or work satisfaction survey or whatever it was called. And we were kind of smiling a little bit with each other and thinking, yeah, if you only ask problem-focused questions, you get a lot of information about problems. And if you get a lot of information about problems, and then you serve this problem-focused information to people, so then they will start thinking about why we have all these problems. Why are we Why are we worse than the other department there? And when they are analyzing the reason for not getting high enough points, they end up blaming each other, and there could be very almost like an automatic. You automatically create conflicts in the organization by presenting all this problem-focused information to them. The managers will start blaming the workers, and the workers, employees will start blaming the managers, and everybody. In the end, everybody is blaming everyone. So the first thing that I would suggest, but of course, I would need to have somebody who listens to me, but I would like to suggest that these surveys be done in a different way. Now that's not so easy, because there's sometimes international companies and they're already determined that these surveys are done in a certain way. But even the little detail that you mentioned, you said, what did you call these surveys? You said engagement surveys. That's already a sign that there might be some movement from problem-focused questionnaires to engagement. Engagement is more a positive term. It's like I want to learn more about how engaged do you feel, or what can we do to improve engagement? What can we do? Engagement is more or less the same as happiness, isn't it? Because you enjoy your work and you enjoy the team where you are. But I think the first thing is to change the way we ask questions, and maybe ask questions like, what gives you satisfaction in your work? What makes you happy in your work? What has made you most happy in the recent times? What would you need to ensure that you are happy next year too? And so you could present all the questions in a more solution-focused way.
Yeah, this is very interesting, since a lot of the survey companies, they have the huge benchmark data, so you cannot easily change the questions, because you need to be able to compare what other companies are saying. But of course,
we are stuck in a problem-focused
hopefully
world.
we are not stuck, but it's a really good point. And of course, you can do also pulse surveys, or surveys that really are not for the benchmark data, but really provides you a good visibility and understanding on the engagement of the employees. Interesting.
Yes, to be solution-focused in a problem-focused world is not so easy. Yeah?
It's not so easy. Yeah, fully agree. Hey, if we talk about the book, your book, the How to Create a Good Spirit at the Workplace, and with that book you introduce this double star model, and of course there's a lot of content, and the whole book is about the double star. But can you explain the core principles?
Yes, I like to put it like this: like, if you work with reteaming. And so the key idea in reteaming is that you ask people to describe how they want their team or organization to be in the future. That's typical solution-focused work. So you are not so interested in what kind of problems have you had lately, or what is causing you to suffer here, or what is causing all these difficulties or conflicts that you have. You are more interested in creating a vision, or like a detailed description of how you would like things to be optimally. Like, it's not optimal maybe now, but what would be optimal? And then we look at what skills or abilities or competencies you think you need in order to reach that goal that you described yourself. Simple as that. So then if you do this many times, so you start to hear what people are saying. They are saying what we need in order to be what we want. We need appreciation. We need fun, a little bit. We need caring, the word that you are using. We need to be better at communicating with each other. Okay, so in what situations do you need to be? We need to become better at solving conflicts. We need to become better at giving feedback to each other. There is a list of things that repeatedly come up. So we only started to collect those and said, this is what people are saying, this is what people are, this is what they want, this is what they say they need to become better at. And then summarizing those findings, those practical findings. So we just organize the information in a visually attractive way. So we put 2 stars, a blue star, which pointed 4 different positive things like appreciation, sharing successes, caring, and so on. So we had 4 factors that are things that people want more of because they really love this, that makes them tick. And then we found also that that's not the whole story. People also were desperate to do something about developing competencies, communication competencies. I like to call collaboration competencies, but those are the same. Everybody knows them. We need to become better at giving feedback to each other. So how do you criticize another person in a positive or solution-focused manner? You can practice with your husband or wife all the time, every day. So how do you discuss if there's a conflict situation? How do you manage? I like to say hurts when people feel hurt. Like I feel bad about what happened yesterday. How do you open that up and how do you solve it? So there are situations and also errors or blunders when people make mistakes. Like how do you deal with mistakes in a hospital, for example? Mistakes happen. So how do we deal with them? Are we afraid of them so we don't talk about them? So I think there are certain key elements that are quite obvious and they always come up when we talk about improving the workplace. So we just simply organize them in the form of 2 stars, blue star and yellow star, and we call it twin star, double star, twin star. And this twin star has been a kind of a compass to help us talk about these things.
Yeah, I think the twin star really resonates at least very much with me and with the organizations I have worked with. And one thing that I continue seeing, just picking up one example, is that it's really the feedback culture, giving feedback, getting feedback in the right way seems to be quite challenging in many organizations.
Yeah, that I've heard everywhere. Because it's difficult to criticize another person in a positive way. We need some model, but we developed for training purposes a model, like a template. You would say template.
Yeah.
There are other people have also developed templates for giving feedback or for criticizing another person in a constructive fashion. So our template is called the hands, and it's a playful exercise. So we have done this playful exercise all over the world with a lot of different people, and usually people enjoy the exercise because in the exercise we do the worst case scenario first, and then people get to know how to really crush another person with feedback. It's terrible, but we do it in a jokingly way. And then in a humorous way, it's a parody. So we play with the idea. We say, let's try a parody. Teach you how to give the worst possible feedback that you can ever give to another person. And we role play this in a fun way, not criticizing really anybody, but just role playing. And then people start to think, what would be the opposite? Like if this is the worst possible way to give feedback, like telling a person that they are, in English they say telling off, like criticize, you always do like that, and why do you do? Are you crazy, or you must be selfish? Or, there is a way to give feedback which is awful, and we play with that one. And then once people have experienced the awful criticism, they are very motivated. Is there a better way? Is there a better way? Yeah, let's see. There is a better way. We can use solution-focused psychology to develop a better way. And then we try the other approach, and usually people say, oh, this worked much better. Thank you. Now I have some ideas. I'm not sure I can do it, but at least I have some ideas about how I can become better at giving feedback to people.
And that was it the hand approach?
No, we call it the hands. It's simply called hands because the first hand has 5 rules. Always. Why do you do this? How many times have I told you? The first hand has 5 fingers or 5 rules. And then when we start to learn the solution-focused way, it also happens to have 5 fingers or 5 rules. So, in the exercise, when we are in the group of people who actually we draw the hand, we give names to the fingers. And then it's one way of learning how to communicate in an appreciative way. See, the word appreciation is here again, the key.
Yeah. I use the term recognition, and I think it's the same as appreciation.
Acknowledgement, recognition, appreciate. The client decides which word we use. We are okay, whatever word you want to use. They might be allergic to some words because maybe they had a boss who was pushing this word and everybody got tired of this word. So they hate the word happiness, or they hate the word appreciation, or they hate the word. So we have to be sensitive, culturally sensitive terminology.
Yeah, it's important, definitely. Hey, I could have, or we could have continued this discussion, I think, much longer, but I think we need to start wrapping up. And I think one question, a key takeaway, what people or leaders could take from this podcast, what would be one action today they could take to improve the workplace? And I'm using the word happiness again. What should it be?
I think we have mentioned it. I mean, in this discussion, we did talk a little bit about this concept of success analysis. I make it sound like bigger. Success analysis. Did you do your success analysis? Did you forget to do this? Yeah. Did you forget to do your success analysis for today? Every day. Maybe you should make sure that every day you find something that works, not only at work, maybe also at home. So was it your wife or your husband who baked a cake or made some bread or brought some wonderful food to the home? Honey, you succeeded to bring the best food. I'm so happy about this. So how did you do? Where did you find this wonderful cake? Or where did you find the recipe? Or how did you succeed in making it? So when people start to analyze successes in more mundane, everyday situations, you can do it. But then if you can create it, you can weave it into the culture, into the DNA of the workplace. If you can weave it into the DNA of the workplace, that could be, that's a simple idea, but very effective.
So analyzing, but also sharing, importantly.
No, you cannot analyze if you don't share, can you?
Well, yeah,
in your own head, but this is like a social activity.
Which is not very helpful.
No.
Yeah, the social aspect actually is quite important in the solution-focused mindset or thinking.
I think so too. It's about us. It's not about you. It's about we.
It's about we, and that's really well put, yes. If I may, what makes you happy, Ben?
I'm going to Lapland to ski in a week from now. So that's one thing that makes me happy. But there are many other things that make me happy too.
Happy and content. Hey, Ben, thank you so much for sharing your insights. I think it was an absolute pleasure to have you sharing.
Thanks for
your
your
expertise
questions.
and your experience. And as said, it would have been nice to even have a longer discussion, but maybe we'll have a second episode together. But thank you for joining the podcast.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining till next month. Thank you. Bye-bye.